Welcome to Songs of Inspiration, a monthly podcast that brings you interviews and performances by local singer-songwriters with the goal to give space to the music community and share local artists' messages and stories with the world. I'm your host, Lars Wickman. Hey everyone, we're back with another episode of Songs of Inspiration. Today's artist is local singer-songwriter Rachel Sumner. Originally a classical flutist from the dusty Mojave Desert, Rachel relocated from California to Boston about a decade ago. Intending to study composition and film scoring at Berklee College of Music, she found herself in the orbit of roots musicians like Molly Tuttle, Bronwyn Keith Hines, and John Melander, who introduced her to a trove of traditional music, started her off with a few chords on the guitar, and encouraged her to write her own songs. Since then, she's become one of the most vital voices in Boston's thriving roots music scene. She spent her early career on the bluegrass circuit, singing and writing with genre-bending Boston group Twisted Pine. After setting out on her own, her songs have become critically acclaimed, winning the John Lennon songwriting competition for her song Radium Girls. She's also earned herself a spot at the Kerrville New Folk competition and has been chosen for 2 consecutive years by WBUR as one of the top Massachusetts entries in the Tiny Desk competition. This summer you can find Rachel playing all over the Northeast with her band Rachel Sumner and the Traveling Light. I'm really excited to have Rachel on the show today, so without further ado, let's dive into the interview. Hey everyone, I'm here in the studio today with Rachel Sumner. Welcome, Rachel. Thanks for taking the time to be on the podcast today.
Howdy, thanks for having me.
Awesome. I shared some context about your career so far in the intro, but it's always good to start at the beginning. So can you start off by just telling us a little bit about how you got started with music?
Sure. Well, a long time ago in the Mojave Desert, I was a wee little kid who wanted to play the trumpet in 3rd grade, but my mom said it was too loud, so I picked the flute. And for most of my life, I was a flute player and didn't even touch a guitar, which is now my main instrument, until I went to college, until I came to Berklee out here in Boston. And we listened to music constantly in the car, at home. We had one of those shower radios. Like, it was just music all the time. So my mom definitely instilled a deep love of all kinds of music. But I actually grew up in the orchestra circuit and the marching band circuit too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And do you still play flute a little bit at all?
I do. I've been having a lot of fun recording woodwind arrangements for other people's CDs, and also I've been doing that for some of my own album recordings. And during lockdown, it was really fun to make some cover videos where I utilized my flute skills and made some lush arrangements of some of my favorites.
Nice. That's awesome. Who are some artists that influenced your songwriting early on?
So I probably grew up with a really unhealthy diet of 90s country music. But my deadhead uncle gave my mom 2 albums that kind of changed the trajectory of my life. One was an Alison Krauss record, and the other was a Nickel Creek record, the first.
Oh, cool.
Actually, the first 2 Nickel Creek records. And I fell in love with all of those albums, but especially the Nickel Creek stuff. And I just had never heard music like that before and songwriting like that before. And it really appealed to my teenage Rachel. Really loved kind of how emo it was. It was great to sulk to, and just great arranging, and it's still so important to me. I look back at it now, and that definitely got me going in the direction that I ended up in. Once I followed Chris Thiele's trajectory as a musician, I was introduced to his project with Michael Daves, where they did bluegrass songs, and that opened me up to the wide world of bluegrass, like finding Bill Monroe and Hazel Dickens and Alice Gerrard. And so it was really like a domino effect, but I think it definitely started with the Nickel Creek and Alison Krauss records.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you have any mentors as you got started with like songwriting and like folk music that influenced you?
Yeah. Well, it was during my time at Berklee. I was studying composition and flute. And I was hanging out with a lot of folks who were in my grade, who were in my class. Molly Tuttle, John Mylander, Maddie Whitler, they were all there. And they were all kind of teaching me, especially Maddie, guitar. Just like, here are 2 chords. Here's G and here's D. And I would just spend hours like practicing going from one chord to the other, and then they would practice soloing on top of it. And so it was like a very, it was a good relationship for all of us because they could practice that and I practiced my rhythm. And we had a teacher, Dave Hollander, at Berklee, who definitely became a mentor in the bluegrass world for us. And that's where I met my bandmates, soon-to-be bandmates, Twisted Pine.
Very cool.
Within the school, so.
Nice. That's awesome. What would you say the biggest challenge in pursuing music as a full-time career was for you?
Definitely coming out of the pandemic, it's been pretty tough. Venues that I once knew are no more.
Yeah.
It's hard getting people out to shows, like understandably. And yeah, it can feel a little disheartening, you know, because everybody's operating on their own timeline, which is, you know, totally 100% valid.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough because all these musicians were like gung-ho to get on the road and get back to playing music for people, and it's been like waves of audiences coming back, which sometimes doesn't work out for your shows, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say probably that has been one of the biggest challenges, and that's obviously connected to money and being able to pay a band, and then finding funds for recording. It feels like you're constantly trying to figure out ways to do a balancing act.
Yeah.
But it's something that I love so much. Actually, I was just at a retreat with this really great songwriter, Carsey Blanton, and she had us do an exercise where we had 2 pages in our notebook, and one page we wrote a heart at the top, and the other page we wrote a $sign at the top. And she said, okay, we're going to take 4 minutes and we're going to write down all of the things on the side with the heart, all of the things that you do for love of music. And so that was like writing songs, recording songs, you know, everything that you do for your heart. And then under the money side, okay, now write the things that you do for money, which is like playing shows. Like playing shows can be on both sides, but you're supposed to like find the certain aspects. So it could just be like stressing about ticket sales or advertising or things like that. But it was really interesting to have 2 completely separate sides and to just remember that, like, yes, you're not a business, you know, you're doing this to put your music out there, but that's not the heart stuff, and to keep the heart stuff in mind always.
Absolutely. Yeah, the passion for it is always the most important thing, I think.
Yeah.
And the other stuff will come.
Definitely.
Yeah. Very cool. Do you have any creative routines that you use to keep the inspiration flowing?
Yeah. This is an interesting question. I was asked this at the writing retreat as well, and I think the thing that I kind of came to was, and this is a little dark, but like I used to drink a lot, and I very much had my writing process connected to drinking. So after a shift, I would go to the bar and like write, I'd have my journal out and I'd drink a couple beers and I'd write, and that was like my routine. And I have been now 4.5 years without alcohol, which is
Oh, wow.
really great. It was really hard divorcing my creative process from that.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And I realized that I never put something else in there as a ritual for my writing process. So I guess I am without ritual currently, looking for one. But I mean, for the most part, like it doesn't sound fabulous, but editing is a really important part to my writing process, and it often takes me a long time to figure out what I'm trying to say. So time is also a key part to that, but I just save everything. I put all my little thoughts in my all my little thoughts in my notes app, and I have like a ton of voice memos. So
Nice.
I often go back and quilt things together later.
That's cool. Yeah. I know a lot of people I've talked to have talked about just kind of getting ideas down and then coming back to them to kind of edit and bring them to life and focus the idea of the song a little more and stuff. And then over time, you kind of dial it in.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I mean, I will save every version of a line. So even if I change one word in that line, I will just move that down the document, but I will keep it there because you never know when you'll need something with that different shade. I believe every word has a different shade to it. And so I think it's important to keep them all.
Definitely. Cool. You've won some awards for your songwriting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, probably the biggest one was the Lennon Award for the John Lennon Songwriting Competition, which was wild. I had forgotten that I entered it. I think that's the mindset you kind of have to have. Like, I just have a spreadsheet where I have all of the competitions that I want to enter in. And then, I enter it and then I, check it off the list. And then I forgot about it. And it wasn't until a friend texted me and said, "Oh my God, you won the grand prize for this session for my song Radium Girls." And I was like, "What?" And it was wild and life-changing, really. But I was so thrilled that the folks at the John Lennon songwriting competition chose to recognize a song like Radium Girls. It's not one that is poppy or catchy or really like mainstream at all. But I felt like there was a message that I wanted the world to hear, and that just helped get it out a little bit more. And thanks to that, a lot more people have heard the story of the Radium Girls, which was what I set out to do.
That's great. Yeah, I remember we met at that house show that Sasha Latovsky booked, and you played that song, and it really stuck out as just a very meaningful song in that it told a story, and also went and like researched the story a little bit more to find out more about that, because it's something that I didn't know about personally, and it's a really tragic and crazy part of history.
Right.
Yeah.
I also didn't know about it until like 2019, until I was actually diving deep into a Joanna Newsom song, and there was a word undarked at the very end of this stream of consciousness thing in a song called Time as a Symptom. And that just led me down a rabbit hole, and that's where I learned about the Radium Girls, and I was furious that I had never heard about them in history classes. Like, nobody had ever told me about these women and how important they were to like the laws that are in place today that protect workers. So I really wanted to share that story.
You have a band you tour with, Rachel Sumner and the Traveling Light. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came together?
Yeah. So my bassist, Mike Siegel, we've been friends for a long time, and we actually made music with another friend of ours, Sam Moss, great songwriter. Go check his music out. But we were Sumner and Moss and Siegel, and we did a lot of country type things, country songs. And then Mike had just always been very down to play my music, which was like a shock to me because my music is not really the most intuitive to play. There's like certain beats are dropped in random spots and there's a million chords. And so Mike was very, very excited always to play my music. So it was just a natural thing to play with Mike. And then I knew that I really wanted a fiddler. I had tried different iterations of a band prior to the pandemic, and it was really fun. Those were great bands, but something just wasn't clicking, and it really felt like I knew a certain instrumentation a little bit better than the other instrumentation I was doing. Like I tried to have drums and cello, but I really cut my teeth with my old bluegrass band Twisted Pine, and that instrumentation was fiddle, mandolin, me on guitar, and bass. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to kind of return to an instrumentation similar to that because I could think through it a little bit better. So I went on Instagram, and luckily everybody was posting like practice videos because it was still like lockdown essentially. Yeah. And I had a gig at Club Passim, and I knew I wanted to put something together. And I remembered that, oh, yeah, there's this girl. I've been seeing her post videos. Her name's Kat Wallace, and she seems pretty cool. Let me go check out her videos a little bit more in depth. And there she was, shredding Celtic music. Then the next video, she was shredding old-time music, and then bluegrass, and then classical. And I was like, okay, she can do everything. This feels like a good fit. And I sent her a message. I slid into her DMs, and she immediately was like, yes, I'll do it. And so,
very cool.
Yeah. And then we had a few other friends come in and play some other instruments. Alex Formento on pedal steel for the record, and our friend Ira Klein, great guitarist. He did a lot of the lead. He did all the lead parts, nice. and it just was really, really wonderful. But we tour around as a trio these days, and it's been just so much fun being on the road with those guys.
That's awesome. Very cool. You have a lot of great music. Is there one song in particular that you would say holds special meaning for you? And can you tell us a little bit about the story behind that song?
Yeah, I think the one that comes to mind immediately is a song of mine called The Arms of Your Mother. And I wrote that. I was in a songwriting course with Liv Green, also a great songwriter. Go check out her music. And she gave us the assignment to write a song with the word cradle in it. And immediately, this was like January of 2021, so there was nowhere to go. I hadn't been to California, where my family is, in like 2 years at that point. And I'm very close to my mom. We have a very close relationship. And unfortunately, she's been like suffering a disability. She's had spinal surgery, she's had hip replaced, and a lot of different things. She lives in constant pain. And so I just was feeling very much, I was very, very much missing her, wanting to be there with her, and unable to. And I was just thinking about how she used to hold me in her arms and read me this book in my childhood that was called Love You Forever. Mm-hmm. And which is a picture book that is honestly so sad.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, it follows the life of a mother and a son, from the son's birth until the mother's death. And she like holds him and she sings this song, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. And and then at the end it turns around and he's holding her on her deathbed and he sings that to her. So she read that to me every night. It definitely explains a lot for me about like dark existentialness that creeps into my songwriting sometimes. But so I was thinking about that, and I had this word, and so all of a sudden this song started to pour out. I had also just become an aunt again. My husband's sister had just had a baby, and so all of this was on my mind, and I wrote this song loosely based on that book, where it follows the life of, or it traces the life of a mother and a daughter, and in a similar fashion, there's like a refrain that the mother sings to the daughter, and then at the end, the daughter sings to the mother. So,
Very cool.
you know, my mom is still with us, thankfully, but it just, I don't know, it just all came out very, very easily at the time. And it makes her cry, so it makes me cry too sometimes.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful story behind that song. Very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any upcoming shows or tours planned for the summer?
Yes, actually, I've got a duo show where me and my fiddler, Kat Wallace, we will be opening for the Ladles at Club Passim on June 29th. And then the full band will be back in action July 13th at the Lizard Lounge. So
very cool.
Both good opportunities. And then we're planning on heading south for the fall. So that'll be really fun.
Nice. And I saw you teach some songwriting classes at Club Passim. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I started teaching at Passim 2016, and then during the pandemic, I took over as the manager for the School of Music, and so I haven't really taught much. I've been more on the logistics side of organizing classes with other teachers. But I just felt moved to do an Aeneas Mitchell themed class this last semester. So yeah, I've been teaching songwriting through the lens of Aeneas Mitchell, who is one of my heroes, just a brilliant songwriter. And it's been really fun getting completely nerdy with her songs.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's a cool way to explore songwriting through someone else's kind of perspective.
Yeah. And she's got a varied portfolio.
Yeah.
And honestly, she's one of the people that I'm most inspired by these days, just seeing how her career has laid out with, she's followed her muse. She made a musical. She's done the Child Ballad Project, and she's written her own amazing songs, and all during that. And so and not to forget Bonnie Light Horseman.
Yeah.
She's doing it all, and I love it.
That's awesome. Cool. What's one piece of advice you'd give to songwriters that are just starting out?
Well, my business brain wants to advise make videos of your playing. Probably prioritize videos over making an album. That's what I would say, because videos can help you get gigs. Definitely make an album. I'm not saying don't, but if you have to choose one or the other, pick the videos first, because these days that'll get you further. Creatively, I just want to say, dig into the songs that you find yourself gravitating toward the most. Learn how to play them, sing them. It's so important to internalize the music that you love and to learn why you love the music that you love, in order for you to make songs the way that you want to. It really helps the process, and I think it's an important exercise.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and share some cool stories and insights. I'm really pumped to hear you play some music, so let's jump into the performance.
Thank you, Lars. First song I'm going to play for you is the title track from my first EP that I ever put out. This is based on a Jack Gilbert poem that I read and just sobbed after reading. And the song quickly came out. I think it took me an hour and a half, which is very rare for my writing. But this song is called Anything Worth Doing. Did he fail when he fell? That Icarus we know so well. I think credit's old where credit's
comes to an end, how people love to win. They tally all the faults and total scores, but they don't know our love meant more. Loving you was an early morning, watching the sunrise turn to day, holding the covers up till the moment they all were pulled away, like catching the last rays of a sunset on a cool summer's night, knowing the stars can't always shine so bright, shine so bright. Did he fail when he fell that Icarus we know so well? I think credits owed where credits due. We all forget he also flew. Loving you till the early morning, watching the sunrise turn to day, holding you closer up till the moment you turned and pulled away. Loving you was learning to fly on wings of feathers and of wax, soaring sky high with nothing else worth looking back to. Did we fail when we fell from a love we knew so well? I think credits owed where credits due. Please don't forget we also flew. Would you think back on our time gladly? Anything worth doing at all is worth doing badly. Ooh. All right, this next song I'm going to do for you is the song that we had talked about a little bit before. This is Radium Girls' Curie Eleison. It was the song that won the John Lennon competition. And it's all about a true story of the Radium Girls, who were a group of women in the early 1900s. They worked in factories along mostly the East Coast, and they worked with a substance called Undark that had radium in it. And back then, it was not widely known that radium was poisonous. In fact, a lot of people thought that it was good for you. And so factories instructed women to lip dip paint. So they were putting their paintbrushes in their mouths. And as you can imagine, a lot of women got very sick and a lot of women died from this. And turns out the factories knew that radium was dangerous, though, and a group of brave women took those factories to court. And after a long battle, they finally won. And many of the laws that are in place today that protect workers are there because of the Radium Girls case. And so Here it is, Radium Girls Curie Eleison. In the days when Rosie beckoned girls to join assembly lines, a mixture simply named undark made wristwatch faces shine, and women with star-spangled hearts sat faithfully in rows, bent to help the boys entrenched stave off those dark shadows. Day by day they all were tasked to paint 200 dials with brushes made of camel hair and radium dust in vials. The numbers on the clocks were painted dainty, slim and slight, so the girls were taught to use their lips to point the bristles tight. The taste was a little foul, but no one really seemed to mind. The pay was more than 3 times what a girl back then could find. Radium was championed, a newfound fount of youth, and the few who knew the dangers kept the public from the truth. For a time each painter prospered, though the work they did was tough, and were delighted when they'd clock out covered in the magic stuff. They decorate their drabbest dresses, paint skin so they'd sparkle. No earthly sight quite like a glowing angel in the darkness. Curie Eleison, Curie. Even lights that shine the brightest will eventually dim, but you never do expect it, just as someone's life begins. As each timepiece passed through nimble fingers, painters dreamed and planned, though they had in fact so very little time left on their hands. Soon these young girls ached as if they'd aged for 80 years, and radiating pain turned into radiating fear. Doctors did their best to treat an unknown malady, but no remedy could keep those bodies from unraveling. So aching turned to limping, and sore mouths began to bleed. Then jaws began to break, and smiles gave way to crumbling teeth. Families became buried beneath doctor bills and loans, and grief like radium began to settle in their bones. Curie Eleison, Curie. To have so many sick at once seemed no coincidence, but the company confronted had maintained its innocence. Yet they'd secretly received results that told a different story, and they knew despite their lies that they were liable for the suffering. Those who had enlisted ladies to leave luminescent marks were now working overtime to keep them in the dark. Not a single protocol was changed at all, though there was danger, and alien workers failing fast were easily exchanged for healthy younger women, unsuspecting and naive, who craved to carve their own piece of the great American dream. Nothing pierced those stone hearts fortified by corporate greed, even when the women's own hearts one by one had ceased to beat. Curie Eleison, Curie. I wish that I could tell you that somebody found a cure, or that when the court case first came round, the crime was answered for. These women walked among the living, having one foot in the grave. Still they used what fight that they had left, so others could be saved. To this day no one can say how many lives were lost. Had they been sooner taken seriously, it might have cut the cost. You may claim women have been long since elevated in this world, but how can that be? Our ashes still speak louder than our words. Okay, and now I'll leave you with the song that we chatted about. It's called The Arms of Your Mother. This is the last track on the album that we put out last year called Rachel Sumner and Traveling Light. Thank you again for having me. The day you were born seemed like any other. No herald and horns, just a ring from my brother. So I grabbed my keys, burnt my legs on the seat, and drove the 2 hours just to meet you. I gave our last name at the visitor's desk. They pointed the way, pinned a tag on my chest. I wandered the ward till I found the right door, and through it I heard your mama singing. My arms may grow weary, but I'll never tire of cradling you to my heart. I know it's possible to love well beyond limits our imperfect bodies have placed on us. I'll hold you close each moment I can. The arms of your mother are always at hand. I remember the nights I'd come by for dinner, and you were a sight with your markers and glitter. It was hellos and hugs, then I'd help you wash up as she'd fill our plates at the table. And when it got late, we'd take to the sofa, and you'd start to fade while your mama would hold you. We'd switch to a whisper for you, dear little drifter, and softly your mama'd start singing. My arms may grow weary, but I'll never tire of cradling you to my heart. I know it's possible to love well beyond the limits our imperfect bodies have placed on us. I'll hold you close each moment I can. The arms of your mother are always at hand. And she was so grateful when your car pulled in. She turned so frail, so fast. You held her at last. You held her last. never tired of cradling you to my heart. I know it's possible to love well beyond the limits our imperfect bodies have placed on us. I'll hold you close as long as I can. The arms of your daughter are always at hand. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you, Lars, for having me. You can find my music and also tour dates and all that at rachelsumnermusic.com. Thank you.
Before we wrap up today's episode, I wanted to give a quick shout out to a local organization that's doing some amazing work for local musicians. World's End Sessions is a grassroots organization run by my friend Sasha Latovsky. They work with local and touring artists to host pop-up shows all over the city, and their organization promotes inclusivity and accessibility by providing a sliding scale ticketing system for all of their events. Check out their website at www.worldsendsessions.com or follow them on Instagram to hear more about their events this summer at World's End Sessions. Thanks for listening to Songs of Inspiration. Until next time, keep supporting live music, stay safe, and be well. This podcast is produced by True to the Vision Music. For more information, check out larswickman.net.